I'd lived in my quiet suburban home for 8 peaceful years before Karen moved in next door. The first week, her silver SUV appeared in my driveway 3 times. I left polite notes on her windshield, assuming it was an honest mistake. She never responded. By week 2, I knocked on her door. She answered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes and said she had guests and needed the extra space. My driveway was closer to her house anyway, so what was the big deal? I explained it was my property, that I needed access for my own car. She shrugged and closed the door in my face. The pattern continued for months. I'd come home from work to find her vehicle blocking my garage. Sometimes it would be there for hours, sometimes overnight. I called the police twice, but each time, by the time they arrived, she'd moved it. The officer told me it was a civil matter unless I wanted to pursue trespassing charges, which would mean lawyers and court dates and money I didn't have. Karen knew exactly what she was doing, operating in that gray area where she was technically wrong but practically untouchable. My breaking point came on a Tuesday evening. I'd been at the hospital all day with my elderly mother, exhausted and emotionally drained. I pulled onto my street at midnight to find Karen's SUV sprawled across my entire driveway, parked at an angle so I couldn't even squeeze past. Her house was blazing with lights and music. Another party. I sat in my car and felt something inside me snap. I wasn't an aggressive person. I'd never sought revenge on anyone. But in that moment, staring at her vehicle gleaming under the streetlight, I made a decision. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I went to the hardware store and bought everything I needed. When Karen left for her morning run at 9, I moved fast. I mixed industrial-strength adhesive, the kind used for permanent outdoor installations, with a bonding agent that created an almost unbreakable seal. I worked quickly, spreading it across specific spots in my driveway, the exact width of tire tracks, and covered it with a thin layer of loose gravel to disguise what I'd done. Then I waited. That evening, like clockwork, Karen pulled into my driveway. I watched from my window as she parked, got out, and walked into her house without a second glance. Perfect. I gave it 2 hours, long enough for the adhesive to cure completely in the summer heat. Then I went outside and knocked on her door. She answered with that same condescending smile. "Yes? Your car's in my driveway again," I said calmly. "You might want to move it." She rolled her eyes. "I'll move it when I'm ready." She started to close the door, but I held up my hand. "I'm not asking this time. I'm telling you. Move it now or I'm having it towed." My voice had an edge I'd never heard before. She laughed, actually laughed, and walked past me toward her SUV. I followed, my heart pounding. She climbed in, started the engine, and put it in reverse. The engine roared. The wheels spun. Nothing happened. She tried again, pressing harder on the gas. The smell of burning rubber filled the air, but the vehicle didn't budge an inch. Confusion crossed her face, then panic. She got out and walked around the car, and that's when she saw it. Her tires were completely bonded to my driveway, melted into the adhesive that had hardened like concrete. "What did you do?" she screamed. "What did you do to my car?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken that morning, time-stamped images of my empty driveway before she'd parked there. I resurfaced my driveway today, posted notices about wet adhesive. "Not my fault you chose to park on private property during construction." I hadn't actually posted notices, but she didn't know that. Her face went purple with rage. She threatened to sue, to call the police, to report me to everyone she could think of. I stayed calm. "By all means, call them. Explain how you repeatedly trespassed on my property after multiple warnings, then parked your vehicle during clearly marked construction. I'm sure they'll be very sympathetic." The tow truck cost her $800. The new tires cost even more. But the best part came 3 days later, when I received a certified letter from her lawyer threatening legal action. I responded with my own documentation, 6 months of dated photographs showing her car in my driveway, copies of my police reports, and testimony from 3 other neighbors about her entitled behavior. Her lawyer dropped the case immediately. Karen never parked in my driveway again. In fact, she avoided eye contact entirely, which suited me just fine. I'd learned something important that day. Sometimes being nice doesn't work. Sometimes people only understand consequences. And sometimes when someone pushes you far enough, the quiet ones push back hardest. My mother asked me later if I felt guilty. I thought about it honestly and realized I didn't. Not even a little bit. Some battles aren't worth fighting, but some hills are worth defending, even if you have to get creative about it.